President, please be seated. The court is now back in session, and I would like to give the floor to Defense Counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chie to continue putting questions to the civil party.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to start by giving you the reference in relation to Division 920 soldiers, or the numbers rather, that were sent to S21, or so it seems. I was getting my information from the DC Cam publication called Khmer Rouge Purges in the Mondulkiri Highlands. It's E3/1664. It can be found on page 4 of the book, and it's on English ERN only 00397577. It says, and I quote literally, starting in 1977, more than 400 soldiers from Division 920 were rounded up in Mondulkiri and sent to S21. So that's where I have that number from. I still owe you a French and Khmer ERN of the last citation that I put before the civil party in relation to the rebellion of Un and Un, the Division 310 commander being in the quote same clique with Hun Sen, unquote. That is French 00407996, Khmer 00053869. And to be I didn't hear you.
I think it was an internal issue.
Oh, I apologize. So these were the French and Khmer ERNs of the last excerpt. And just to be complete, these 3 citations of these 3 Division 310 soldiers you can read in our recently filed request.
President, please repeat the EON in Khmer.
No problem. 00053869, and it is document E3/7583. And I was saying that you can find these citations from those 3 Division 310 soldiers or combatants in our recently filed application, asking for 6 witnesses to appear before the chamber, and the citations are from 3 of them: witness A, witness B, and witness E. We call them. I won't give any names at this stage.
Yes, Mr. President, before Council resumes his questioning, just so the record is complete on this, there are actually some Khmer and French ERNs for the publication regarding the purges in Mondulkiri that list the over 400 Division 920 people. It's at the back of that book. There is an actual list that was compiled of all the Division 920 and Sector 105 individuals who were sent to S21. You can, this is in document, the same document Council cited the book Khmer Rouge Purges in Mondulkiri E3/1664. You'll find that list of people sent to S21, the beginning at Khmer 00742-841, French 00707-392, English 00397-712. That's the beginning of this list. So just so that it's on the record, one can look at that in all three languages.
Good morning again, Mr. Civil Party. Let me turn to your activities as a 920 combatant. Yesterday, you said, I was at the battlefield, I was at the front battlefield under the division authority. You said, and I quote you, you were assigned to defend the border and you were working to protect the territorial integrity. Can you give us some concrete examples as to what you were doing performing these tasks? Where were you patrolling? What did you encounter? What was your experience at the border, at the front battlefield?
I patrol along the border. My main task was to make spikes and to dig trench, and especially to ensure that the UN cannot enter our territory. And for the battlefields, I was assigned to Chroc Marich and Odam and Opol. So these were the locations that I was assigned to make spies, dig trench, and to lay traps. So we put these traps and make spies and lay them at the borderland area to defend our territory.
Thank you, Mr. Civil Party. Let me read, I don't have that much time anymore, unfortunately, one or two telegrams to you, telegrams which were coming from your division and which were signed by the leader at its time, Comrade Chin. And more specifically, Mr. President, I'll be referring to E3/8377. It's a telegram of 19 February 1976, English ERN 00305245, Khmer 000214458, French 00643478. Division Leader Chin writes to beloved brother Sai, and he says the following in the telegram. I would like to report about the situation along the border where Comrade Ul is in charge. On 17 February 1976, our people went on patrol along the border at the location of Tui To Sang in Puk Rak village and encountered Group 7, who mobilized the people to clear the outer farmland where the rice fields were inside. At 8:30, Group 7 came to meet us near O Dak Dam. There were 50 of them, including villagers and indigenous people. They were armed. In the presence of their 5-star commander, our people asked them what they were doing, and they responded that they were patrolling the border. The telegram goes on for a bit, but let me stop here, Mr. Civil Party. The telegram talks about patrolling along the border at a location Tui To Sang in Puk Rak. Does that ring a bell to you? Patrolling at that area?
Yes, I heard, but I never heard the name of a place called Tui Ti Sang. It's called the area called Troyo Sang, and there were battlefields in that area, and there were also battlefield in another area which I cannot recall the name. I also patrol in Pachanda and Manorum and O Dak Dam and Troyo Sang. So these were the area that I patrolled. And I'm familiar with this area, and based on the local name, we call that area Troyo Sang.
In this telegram, Comrade Chin refers 2 times to an entity called Group 7. Do you know what Group 7 was? What does Chin mean when he speaks about Group 7 coming to meet Division 920 cadres, for instance, at O Dak Dam?
I did not know about the so-called Group 7. I cannot recall it well. I do not know who were the people in this so Group 7. It can be referred to the Yuan, or it can be referred to the Khmer soldiers themselves. So I'm not clear about this.
When you were at the front battlefield, as you call it, patrolling the border, did your unit ever encounter Vietnamese soldiers?
Yes, we encountered them. When I first arrived, I met them and we shook hands. And I met them at O Dak Dam and Trapang Chuk about once or 2 or 3 times. But at a later stage, they claimed that their area was beyond O Dak Dam, and I disagree with their claims. That they said that their land was beyond the line. They said that O Dak Dam was not the border line. Their land was beyond O Dak Dam, so I disagree with this because my task was to defend the border territory. So I made the commitment to defend the border, and people at the upper echelon instructed us to fight. So I followed the order and I dispatched my force. And when they came, we shot at them, and 7 of them were killed. I received the order from the upper echelon that we needed to defend the border, and that the real borderline was at Odakdam. So since that fighting incident occurred, we became enemy. Wherever we encountered each other, we shot at each other. So we started to make spies and let traps that could be used to deter the encroachment of our enemy. So every day we spent our time making spies and laying traps. And these spikes and traps were very effective because when they fell on our enemy were killed instantly. But I felt painful that later on the upper echelon did not trust me and arrested me.
I understand that, Mr. Civil Party. Following up on what you just said about spikes and traps, let me read to you an excerpt from another telegram, and maybe I can ask you to give a reaction to this. It's, Mr. President, document E3/978, English ERN 00324808, Khmer 000208884, French 006233016. It's a telegram from Comrade Ton to Comrade Yi, and he writes as follows. 1. The situation along the Yun border. They have deployed their troops from Route 13 to Route 14. On the 26th of October, 1977, that I add that, they launched a military maneuver by intruding into 64. They fell into our spike traps. They dragged their wounded people away. On 1 October, in Tapieng Chlun, they exchanged fire with us. 2 of them died. We were unharmed. We want to make mines and hand grenades. End of quote. Mr. Civil Party, this telegram is from the 5th of November 77, so I believe that you were still active in Division 920. But in any event, is this this encounter with the Vietnamese military something that you recollect? There seems to be no translation in Khmer.
President, there was no Khmer translation. President, the Khmer translation you need to translate more because Cooper has said a lot and you just gave just only a short translation. I instruct Counsel Victor Cope to repeat your question so that we can get a full Khmer translation.
Certainly, Mr. President. So, Mr. Civil Party, I was reading from a telegram dated the 5th of November 1977, and it is about the situation along the Yun border. And it says they have deployed their troops from Route 13 to Route 14. And then it says, on the 26th of October, they launched a military maneuver by intruding into 64. They fell into our spike traps. They dragged their wounded people away. On 1 October, in Trapieng Chlun, they exchanged fire with us. 2 of them died. We were unharmed. We want to make mines and hand grenades, end of quote. Mr. Civil Party, I believe you were still active at that time in Division 920. Is this an incident that you recall, military maneuvers by the Vietnamese troops, end of October?
Mr. Civil Party, please hold on. The floor is given to the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't object to counsel putting this document to the witness, but since the witness hasn't been provided, the counsel should be clear this is not a report from the sector the witness is from. This is from a completely different sector. It's fine for him to ask if he has any knowledge, but this is not from Mondulkiri sector. It's from Karachi.
Let me get back on that, and let me simplify my question, because I was actually interested in one particular part, and that was following up from what Civil Party had earlier said. The sentence, they fell into our spike traps, which is quoted here. Is that something that you refer to as well, the spike traps used at the border to prevent the Vietnamese troops from entering Democratic Cambodia territory?
When I patrol and perform my task, 2 Vietnamese were wounded by the spike traps, and 2 Vietnamese were killed by the spike trap in the locations that I patrolled.
And these spike traps, where did you put them? Did you put them on territory of Democratic Cambodia, or were they placed somewhere else?
Yes, we let them within the Cambodia border areas. So when the Vietnamese entered our territory, they faced with the traps.
Thank you, Mr. Civil Party. Let me turn now to a third and the last example of enemy fighting, enemy activity. That is something that did happen in the area where you were stationed. Mr. President, that is document E3/1030/1030. Khmer ERN 000333312. English 003248006, French 006232150. This is not a Division 920 telegram, it seems. It is a sector military telegram, we believe. It is written by Sophia, 20 June 1977. Addressed to beloved and missed brother Chan, and he writes the following, Sophia. We would like to report about the situation of the 7 group as follows. At Oak Plai, they intruded 20 meters into our land and cut bamboo. a little further in paragraph 2, the 7 group that attacked us at Pek Chenda has now attacked and entered Pu Chri Chas village and Ton village and the E village. There were 30 of them. We are now organizing forces to ambush them. Comrade Wing is organizing a force to monitor them further. And then 3, the border situation at Dak Dam. We have found one of their positions between Troye Sang and Oreng. 7 houses are there. End of quote. Does this enemy activity
President, please hold on. The floor is given to Judge Laven.
Oui, Maître Copé, c'est...
Yes, Counsel Copé, perhaps we should point out that in the French and English versions, there are discrepancies. In the English version, they are talking of an incursion over a distance of 20 meters, and in the French version, they are talking of an incursion over a distance of 20 kilometers. So, may we ask you to check with the ITU which of the versions is the right one?
We can agree that they're both incursions, and if it's indeed 20 kilometers, it's of course much worse. But I'm happy to check the Khmer version. E31030. But we'll get back to that, Judge Lavanya. Let me ask the question first, Mrs. Civil Party. This enemy activity, again of Group 7, attacking Oplai and Pech Chanda, does that somehow sound familiar to you?
I do not know about the fighting in those areas.
But I believe you said that you also patrolled in Pek Chenda. Is that correct?
Yes, sometimes I patrol that area, but only but when the incident that you mentioned happened, I was not aware of because I was not at that location and I was not involved in the fighting myself.
I'm just informed, Mr. President, that it is a wrong French translation. It is indeed 20 meters, it seems, in the Khmer version. Mr. Civil Party, besides installing spikes and traps and patrolling, were you ever involved in actual combat with Vietnamese troops? Were you actually shooting at Vietnamese troops, wounding or even killing Vietnamese combatants?
Yes, for my spearheads, I personally engaged in troop attacks against the Vietnamese troops while I was stationed along the border area. 3 Vietnamese soldiers died on that battlefield, and on our side, a soldier was wounded. At that time, they actually trespassing into the territory of Cambodia. Then I ordered the combatants to shoot them, and the fighting lasted for about 30 minutes before they retreated into their territory, leaving behind the dead soldiers.
My last question to you, Mr. Civil Party. I'm running out of time. I have run out of time already. would you agree with me that that were continuously the Vietnamese troops who were entering DK territory, trespassing DK territory, attacking DK territory? Was it the Vietnamese who most of the times started enemy activity?
Yes, it was the Vietnamese who did that, who entered our territory. For us, on the Cambodian side, we never encroached into the territory of Vietnam. And they did to our territory, and they claimed that it was their territory, although the border demarcation was along Odak Dam stream, and it stretched to Yosang. But they claimed at one point that their territory extended 5 to 20 kilometers deep inside our territory. And that was the cause of the continuing clashes at the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Civil Party. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'd like now to hand the floor to the defense team for Kiel Sampon to put questions to this civil party. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to all of you. Good morning, Mr. Sun Woot. My name is Anta Gisse, and I am the Co-International Counsel for Kiel Sampon, and it is in this capacity that I will put a few questions to obtain clarification. You said that you were a company chief in Mondulkiri right after having been Tachin's messenger, and it is when Tachin was assigned to Mondulkiri that you took on that function. Is that the case?
Yes, that is correct. At that time, he came and he assigned me to be in charge of that company.
Did a messenger replace you? When to replace you as a messenger, you were for him.
There were more than one messenger for that division, and there were 5 to 6 messengers. And so amongst those messengers, I was older, and for that reason, I was removed from the messenger's post and promoted to be in charge of a company. And then there was another messenger who was assigned to be with him.
I know that you have a lot of things to say, but please be as specific as possible in your answers. And I, of course, on my side, will try to put precise questions to you given the amount of time that I have. You said that when you were assigned to defend the border as a company chief, therefore, sometimes you would go back to the division office from time to time. And this you said yesterday, a little bit after 3:15 in the afternoon. You said that this did not happen very often, and that you would travel to the company office every 2 weeks or sometimes once a month. So my first question is, where was this division office, corrects the interpreter?
It was located right in Koh Nhek. It was not far from Old Chaba. The division office was about 500 meters away from Old Chaba.
Do you know if this office had a name? Any kind of special name?
No, I did not know whether it had any unique or special name. I only knew it was the division's office.
Il n'y avait pas un nom.
Wasn't there a code name for this office?
There was a code name, but I cannot recall it. As you know, it happened a long time ago. My apology for that.
So you said that you would go back to this office from time to time. Who gave you the authorization to travel to the office?
Sometimes I was sent by my superior, and sometimes I wanted to visit the office, and I would stay there for 2 to 3 days, and then I returned to my base. And sometimes I actually went to the division office in order to make my report to that division, and I would stay there for a day or two and return to my base.
Vous dites je.
You're saying I, so must I understand that you were going to that office on your own? That is to say that the other members of your company would not travel to that office with you?
Sometimes we went in a group of 2 to 3. I never traveled alone. We had to go through forest and some other obstacles. So usually we traveled in a group of 2 or 3. Sometimes we traveled in a group of 5.
Et lorsque vous.
And when you would spend 2 to 3 days over there, would you sleep over there? Would you sleep at the division office?
Yes, at that office. There were actually houses in the surrounding vicinity where we stayed, and of course we didn't stay there with the commander.
Et quand.
So when you're speaking about a house, what kind of house was it?
Those houses were small in size, and 5 or 6 of us would be able to stay in that house as we slept on hammock. It was not actually a proper house. The house was built on the round wooden poles, and it was meant to provide provisional sleeping quarter for soldiers.
Je voudrais maintenant.
Now I would like to discuss the moment when you were arrested. You said that you were arrested after your superiors had been arrested. So my first question is, well, earlier on today you spoke about your superiors who allowed you or gave you the authorization to go to the division office. So who were these superiors? First question.
President Civil Party, please observe the microphone. Civil Party, it was Tachin who was my superior. He's the one who authorized for my travel. And sometimes if I had to go, I didn't have to wait for his authorization.
You say, therefore, that you were arrested after Tachim was arrested. And at first, you said it was 1 month after he had been arrested. And then, when the co-prosecutor was putting questions to you about Tachim's arrest date, you said that you were arrested during the harvest season. That might have been therefore November or December 1977. So did I understand your testimony properly? So, therefore, were you arrested, or do you claim that you were arrested in November or December 1977?
That was about the month that I was arrested. That is November or December, since it was a harvest season.
Je n'ai pas
I didn't understand your answer clearly. I heard that I was arrested for about a month in November or December 1977. So what do you mean? Do you mean that you were arrested 1 month after Tachim was arrested, or you were arrested for a duration of 1 month?
He had been arrested for about 2 to 3 months before my arrest. And I didn't know about my arrest at all. They simply came to arrest me. Before my arrest, there were arrests of those who were in higher positions, for example, commanders of regiments. And I myself considered I was a low-ranking combatant, and why I was arrested. And since I never committed any act against Onka or betrayed Onka at all.
Mr. Sunwood, I know that it's a bit challenging, but please listen to my questions carefully, and please give me precise answers, and answer only the questions I'm putting to you, because I don't have much time, and I don't want to have to request extra time from the chamber. So, you said that you were arrested. Can you tell us where you were arrested? Where were you posted when you were arrested?
I was arrested in Cornier.
Et où exactement?
And where exactly in Cognac?
It was at the military base where I was posted.
So between the time when your superiors were arrested and when you were arrested, were you at Cognac all the time? Or did you go to the front line as well?
I was back and forth between the rear and the front lines. And when I returned from the front line, I did not know why, but they simply arrested me.
Et
And during these months between your arrest, and the arrest of your superiors, who gave you the permission to travel to the division office since Tachin had been arrested and was no longer there?
Nobody gave me that permission. I actually went to the office on my own initiative. Usually I would go to that office after a week or so. And as I said, lastly, when I returned to the office, I was arrested. And I was so puzzled for my arrest since I spent most of my times at the front lines to lay traps or to plant spies to protect the territory. But what could I do since they already arrested me? And if I knew that I would be arrested, I would not return to the office and I would flee.
My apologies for interrupting you. Please provide me with short answers. You said that you were arrested after you had returned to the base, but a bit earlier I asked you if you remained at the base during the full time between when your superiors were arrested and when you were arrested. So I must understand that before you were arrested, you had returned to the base and Tachin had already been arrested. So during this period, did you see who replaced him? And were you explained anything about this?
Nobody told me anything about his arrest. Even for my arrest, I didn't know the reason. And at the time I heard that he was sent for study session.
And who was at the division office in his absence?
After the arrest of Tachin, people came from Division 801, that is from Commander Sarun or Ta 05, came to control Division 920.
So I'd like to get back to the day when you were arrested. You said that 3 people pointed their guns at you and blindfolded you and then took you to a detention center. So my first question is, were you the only one in your company to be arrested on that day?
Yes, I was the only one who was arrested.
So these people blindfolded you. And you said that's why you did not know exactly where you were taken to. So can you tell us how you were taken to the detention center?
After they pointed the gun at me, they tied me up, they blindfolded me, and then they walked me, and I did not know which direction I was heading through. They keep pushing me and walked me, but I didn't have a sense of which direction I was heading through.
Et combien de temps?
And for how long did you walk before you arrived at the detention center?
It was not that far. I could say that it was less than half a kilometer, and then I was interrogated. However, during the initial interrogation, they didn't remove the blindfold from me yet.
Please, 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 again. Mr. Sunwood, I have specific questions to put to you, so please give me specific answers. We will speak about what happened afterwards, but my specific question was, for how long did you walk? If you remember, fine. If you don't, well, then we can move on to another question.
I could not tell you how long, as I didn't have a watch to refer to. However, I can tell you the distance. It was about 500 meters or half a kilometer. So I could say that I walked for about 10 to 20 minutes for that distance. And at that time it was almost a nightfall, and it was difficult to walk, and it was even more difficult when I was blindfolded. And of course, after they arrested me, I was very fearful about my life.
Lorsque
When you arrived, you said that you remained blindfolded, or at least during your first interrogation. So my question is, when did they remove the blindfold? And please answer my question precisely.
Actually, the blindfold was removed when I was put into the room that I was detained in.
hier, vous avez...
Yesterday you said that when you were in the detention cell, you were on your own at first, and then 2 other people came in 2 to 3 days later, I believe. So did I understand your testimony properly?
Yes, that is correct. Initially, there was only me who was detained in that room, and about a day after, 2 more people were brought in and detained in the same room.
Est-ce que...
And was this cell locked?
Yes, it was locked.
Il y avait donc...
So you described the prison as having wooden walls. So there were walls in the room where you were detained, and a door. And was the door a wooden door as well?
In fact, there were only some wooden planks that they put in between the wall, and it's also used to partition the room, although there were gaps that we could see. And this room was built on the wooden poles, and the pole was placed deep inside the ground.
Je reviendrai sur...
I will get back to this description later. However, I would like a point of clarification with regard to how long you were detained. In your supplementary information form, document E3/67, 60 on the first page in all languages, you say that you remained detained there for 1 year. And yesterday, when you were answering a question put to you by the civil party co-lead lawyer at 2:43, you said that you were detained for 6 months. And a few minutes later, when you were answering the co-prosecutor at 3:43, therefore, you said that you had been detained for 3 months and 10 days. So can you tell the chamber what was the exact duration of your detention?
Maybe I made a mistake in relation to the duration of my detention. It was not up to a year, and it could be up to 5 months that I was detained. I cannot make a real recollection of the duration of my detention there.
Donc maintenant, ce n'est plus un an.
So now we're no longer speaking about 6 months, we're no longer speaking about 3 months and 10 days, we're speaking about 5 months. Is that what I must understand?
Yes, 5 months. That was about right.
Répondant,
When you were answering a question regarding the description of the prison, that was yesterday, a little bit after 3:52 and 45 seconds, you said that the place where you were detained was, and I quote, "This prison was a temporary center which housed prisoners. The prisoners would remain there for about 1 month before being executed." That's what I thought back then. Maybe some prisoners were detained there for 2 months. End of quote. Free translation. So if this place was a temporary place, how can you tell us that you remained there for 5 months? Can you clarify this, please?
Yes, I can clarify that. Because the prison itself was not a proper prison, since detainees could escape. So I could say that it was not meant to house the prisoners for a long time.
je comprends pas bien.
I don't quite understand the concept of a prison, since you explained that when you arrived, you were put in a cell that was locked. Can you explain what I see as a contradiction?
When I was sent there, yes, it was a prison. And when I was brought inside, yes, the door was locked.
Alors pourquoi est-ce que vous m'avez répondu à la...
So why did you answer the previous question by saying that it was a prison from which you could escape if the doors were locked?
It's based on my evaluation of the physical structure of the prison. Based on my thinking that if the detainee was a real person with serious offenses, they could flee if they wish to.
Je vais m'arrêter là, Monsieur le Président.
I'll stop here, Mr. President, because I see it is time for the lunch break, and I will resume after the lunch break.
President, thank you. It is the hearing of this civil party has not come to an end before lunch break as we had expected. So I would like to inform party to come back at 1:30 to resume the hearing of this civil party. And I would like to inform Mr. Civil Party that the hearing of your testimony has not come to an end yet. You need to come back in the afternoon session. And court officer, in collaboration with Visu, please make necessary arrangement for the staying of this civil party during the afternoon lunch break. Security personnel are instructed to bring Khieu Sampon and Nuon Chea back to this courtroom before 1:30. I also would like to inform parties that in the afternoon we also hear the submission by Counsel Victor Kope. It's an oral submission related to the fact about S21. So after we end the hearing of the testimony from the civil party, we will continue to hear the submission from the defense counsel. The court is now in recess.